Now, Thomas Frank has verbally agreed terms with Spurs, talkSPORT understands. But just how close are we to an announcement? Joining us now, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Morning, Crookie.
Morning, Crookie.
Good morning.
So when do we expect the announcement that Thomas Frank is the new Tottenham Hotspur coach or manager?
Well, it's difficult to predict these things because obviously clubs like to find weird and wonderful ways to announce new managers, new signings, but I don't think we're too far away now. I got a message very late last night suggesting the two clubs were pretty close to agreeing to allow Thomas Frank to make the move across London. That may well be rubber stamped as early as today. Personal terms, as you mentioned there, not going to be an issue. Thomas Frank has given the green light to a move to Tottenham. I think he wants to take a couple of his backroom staff from Brentford with him to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So that might delay it just a little bit. But certainly this one is moving in the right direction now. And I'm pretty sure, pretty confident we can say Thomas Frank will at some point in the next few days be named as the new Tottenham manager.
What will be expected of him, Crookie? The title this year, Champions League the following year, World Club Championship probably a couple of years after that.
Well, it's tough, isn't it? Because if you look at Tottenham's recent history, they've not been brilliant at building on their successes. I still go back to Mauricio Pochettino leading them to the Champions League final.
Yeah.
Wasn't really backed by Daniel Levy in the following summer transfer window and lost his job a matter of months into the following season. So I think they're going to need to spend in the transfer market. One player I know they've spoken with is Antoine Semenyo at Bournemouth, but they want a decent price for him, sort of 65, 70 million pounds. Are Tottenham going to pay that realistically? Doesn't really fit with the business model under Daniel Levy. They were keen on Angel Gomez, but he's joining Marseille instead. And I do wonder if the delay in confirming Postecoglou's departure and getting a new manager in maybe hampered that particular move. But they need to strengthen the squad, don't they? Because Postecoglou himself admitted after that Europa League final in the second half of the season, I had to focus on Europe because we didn't have the players to compete both in the Premier League and the Europa League. Well, it's going to be even harder when you throw the Champions League into the mix because whatever you think of the new format, there aren't too many deadbeats in that Champions League now. You're playing pretty much a big gun every other game.
Yeah. We're moving to more transfers in a moment, Crookie, but just a quick word on Forest sending that letter to UEFA in an attempt, it would seem, to get Crystal Palace out of Europe. I mean, it's unlikely to have any impact, is it?
Yeah, I don't think UEFA will base their decision on that. And I think it would be incredibly harsh when you look at the number of teams, not just in this country, but across Europe, who operate this multi-club system. Yeah. If UEFA decided to make an example of Crystal Palace, of all teams, not a team, obviously, who are used to competing in Europe, not a team who are used to winning major silverware. I think their FA Cup final victory was one of the success stories of the season. And obviously their fans are dreaming now of a European tour. It would be really unfair, I think, if they were to be thrown out of the competition. And I don't think it's a brilliant look on Forest, because the only difference between the two clubs is that Evangelos Marinakis, the owner of Forest, he had the foresight to put his shares into a blind trust in case they qualify for the Champions League. And that would have been a conflict of interest with his Greek team, Olympiakos. Palace haven't done that. So you're talking about a technicality, really. And I think it was also interesting, Brighton, massive rivals to Palace, they would benefit if Palace would be thrown out of Europe because they would get a European place. They're not going to do the same. They're not going to complain to UEFA. And I think that's quite classy from Tony Bloom and Brighton.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, mate. What about some of the potential transfers? It looks like the Kerkez move from Bournemouth to Liverpool just about getting done now, because Bournemouth look as though they've brought one in to replace him, Adrian Truffert from Rennes.
Yeah, I think it's only minor details now holding up Kerkez's move to Liverpool, so I'd expect that one to be done. They've had a busy summer already with Jeremy Frimpong coming in, Kelleher going out, and potentially Florian Wirtz. I know you've been talking about him this morning, arriving at Anfield for what may end up being a British record fee. So Kerkez to Liverpool, I think we can say that probably will happen. They've got their replacement, as you say. Could be a bargain replacement. Adrian Truffert, around about £14 million, the fee. And it'll be interesting to see how Bournemouth evolve this summer, because Dean Howson has gone to Real Madrid. We're talking about Kerkez leaving as well. And Eliza Barney wanted by Paris Saint-Germain. I think you have to credit Bournemouth's recruitment model, that these players they picked up for relatively modest fees. You know, they're not, with respect, being sold to Wolves and Nottingham Forest. They're being sold to some of the biggest clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always been taken for granted, hasn't it, for some time now, that Martin Zubimendi would end up at Arsenal. But should Arsenal fans now be getting a bit concerned that that might not happen?
No, I think this is a red herring, Jeff. The reports in Spain suggesting Real Madrid are trying to hijack it. I think, in truth, this deal has been done for some time. Arsenal agreed personal terms long ago. They've agreed the payment structure with Real Sociedad as well. I understand why Arsenal fans are concerned because, of course, he was very close to joining Liverpool, and I'm not sure many people realise how close he was to joining Liverpool last summer. He pulled out. Obviously, Real Madrid have been mentioned. Not going to happen. He will be an Arsenal player.
I think I'll be hoping he can play centre forward, Crookie, but that's another discussion. What about Jack Grealish, pal? And I want to ask you about, I really want to ask you about a player that my boys are raving about, Ryan Cherky. Obviously, he's breaking onto the scene, looks a real deal, 21 years of age. Manchester City agreed on £34 million, but we'll start with Jack. I mean, Jeff and I have said for a long time, we just want to see Jack playing again, out enjoying it with a smile on his face. He's got to move, hasn't he, mate?
Yeah, I think he knows that now. We reported on Friday that he has resigned himself to the fact he will have to leave Manchester City. Obviously was left on the bench for the FA Cup final. I know he took that very badly when they were chasing the game against Palace, and obviously Pep went to a youngster instead of his £100 million man, didn't even travel down to Fulham for the last Premier League game. Isn't, I don't think, going to be part of the City team that jets out for the Club World Cup that starts in a few days' time. So it's pretty clear that his journey at City has come to an end. He's won 8 major trophies, so he would say, look, I've justified the price tag. I think the big stumbling block, certainly when it comes to clubs in this country, is his wages. 300 grand a week. City are going to want some of that transfer fee back. I think a loan move is more likely. Everton, Tottenham, Newcastle have all expressed an interest, though Newcastle's interest seems to be cooling. And then you've got Napoli and Antonio Conte, which I still think would be the best move for him. Just on Cherky, I think it could be a busy day for City. That this initial transfer window closes at 7 o'clock tonight. We know he let the cat out of the bag himself. Tajani Reinders has had his medical. He's going to be announced, you would imagine, today as a new Manchester City player signing from Milan. You mentioned Cherky, that's going to go through as well. And Marcus Bettinelli, a new third-choice goalkeeper, because Scott Carson has left the club. So good move for Bettinelli, and he's expected to be part of their Club World Cup squad as well.
Very, very.
Wish I was a third-choice goalkeeper.
Yeah, lovely life. Very, very briefly, Crookie, Victor Gyökeres, is he going to be playing for your beloved Manchester United next season?
I think it's possible, Jeff. And I think it's possible because he hasn't made Champions League football the absolute deal breaker in his next move, and it does look like Arsenal at the moment are pursuing Benjamin Šeško. They have held talks with Gyökeres as well, so don't completely rule them out. I think Liverpool still want a number 9. The interesting thing this summer is that all these strikers are on all the same lists of the top Premier League clubs, and that just shows there aren't many number 9s out there. But obviously Gyökeres has got the relationship with Ruben Amorim. I think they'll have to sell players before they can make that deal happen, because I think Brian Mbeumo will be next in the door at Old Trafford, but certainly it's one to track.
Crookie, thanks very much indeed. Have a great day.
Cheers, Crookie. Have a good day, mate.
Thanks, guys.
And all the latest transfer news on our website, talksport.com.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.